This conference will now be recorded.
जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभुजाकाचर स्तोत्र सतश्री जय पताका स्वामी गुरु महाराज की जय जय नमो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाकाचर स्तोत्र सतश्री अभय चरणारविंदेसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय 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 श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम मायापुर धाम की जय द्वारका धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी देवी की जय समवेद भक्त वृंद की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री बृहत मृदंगा की जय हरि 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 बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories and glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Jai Sri Guru and Jai Sri Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada all glories to Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj Jai Guru Maharaj Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. So we are going to speak from chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and last time we covered up to text 53, and today we'll be starting from text 54. The name of the chapter is Contents of the Gita Summarized. So before we start talking about today's subject matter, I'll do a small recap of what we discussed last time. So last time, basically, we were talking how Krishna was explaining to Arjuna how one should do one's duty in this world. After all, once we are in this world, then everyone has got some duty or the other to perform. Nobody can escape from duty. All of us have got some duty or the other to perform. And we are performing our duties. But with what approach do we adopt? With what mentality do we approach that work? That makes a very big difference. So in this case also, what had happened was Arjuna as a Kshatriya, he has the duty of fighting a war. He is on the battlefield. And in the battlefield, suddenly Arjuna says that I don't wish to fight a war. He's a Kshatriya. Everybody has assembled. And Pandavas are totally dependent on the Kshatriya, or Pandavas are totally dependent on the Arjuna to win the war. And here this man, our friend, says that no, I will not fight. I don't want to. So then seeing all these things, he tells Krishna, I'm taking your shelter. You are the best person to advise me. Now I am your student. You are my teacher. Please tell me what is good for me. And Arjuna is explaining Krishna is explaining to Arjuna how he should fight the war, how he should approach the whole thing. He says that. So while explaining that, he says, Sukutukke same kritva lava lava jaya jaya tato yuddhaya yujjasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Now here, this is one thing very relevant for us, because whenever we are going to do a job, we never know, or rather whenever we are starting anything or even doing anything, we never know what the end is going to be. Although we assume, we say that yes, this is how it will end. But in the course of the activity, it can take a change anywhere. For example, for a sales guy is there. A sales guy is approaching a customer for his orders. But at the same time, there are so many other competitors are also approaching the same customer for the orders. Is it not? Which way the customer will go? The sales guy doesn't know. But he puts in all his best efforts wanting that order. He has put in all his best efforts. The order may come, the order may not come in his favor. Or you have got some chartered accountants taking up cases in the income tax tribunal department, etc., where they are going to the tribunal, they are arguing the case, they are explaining the case very well. But you never know which side the case will be decided. It could be decided in your favor, it could not be decided in your favor. All these things can happen. What happens when it is decided in my favor? I become so happy. And when it is not decided in my favor, I become very unhappy. This is the natural thing that happens. But Krishna says here, approach your work. How do you approach the work? Sukudukke same kritva lava lava jaya jaya. Do the fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. He says, no, you never know which way it will go. That I know, you do not know. So what you should do, how you should approach all these things, keeping me in your mind. Just simply depending upon me, you do your work. What should be the result? That I will decide. I will give you my result. I will give you the result. You don't have to worry about it. So that's the reason why he says this, karmannevadikaraste mahapaleshu kadachana ma karmapala heturbur mate sango svak akarmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So he says, all of us have got our duties to perform, and he says, keep performing your duty. Whatever duty one has to perform, one should perform one's duty. While performing one's duty, don't start thinking when one has to perform, इसमें मेरे लिए क्या है, इसमें मेरा क्या फायदा होने वाला है एक का. The minute I start thinking like that, everything goes in different direction. Then that means I'm expecting something in return for whatever I am doing, which is very natural, one may say. So what is wrong, one may say. That's the way we have been trained. But Krishna here says, nothing wrong in asking such a question, इसमें मेरा लिए क्या है बोल के. But then what happens is, when you don't get what you want, you're also facing disappointment. You're facing frustration. There are so many problems involved in it. And when you're doing something, you never know whether you're going to get it or not, whether you're going to be successful or not before you start. So while doing the work, even before starting the work, while doing the work, and even after finishing the work, till the time the results come out, you're always in stress mode. So is that stress mode really required? But Krishna says, why do you want to go through that stress mode, Arjuna? Simply do the job as an offering for me, as a devotional service for me. Keep me in the center of all your activities and keep performing your duty in such a manner that it is only an offering for me. Do everything, because if we are coming to this world, you have to perform the work. You will have to do the job. Do the job as an offering for me and leave the results to me. When you are doing the offering for me in such a situation, what happens is, if you get the good results, very good, you feel happy. If you don't get good results, then also you will not be disturbed, because you have not done it for yourself, but you have done it as an offering for me. So only when that question of I and mine, mere liye, mujhe chahiye, when all these thoughts come in our head, then only along with that comes sukha, dukkha, labha, jaya, all these things. What is the profit? What is the gain? What is the loss? All such thoughts. But Krishna says here, do everything as a devotional service. मेरे लिए एक सेवा सोच के करते जाओ, जो भी कर. You will never be affected by the results of the activity. Whatever results you have to get, that I will decide. I will give it to you, whatever has to be done. Not that every time we work something, we always get good results. No, not necessary. Sometimes the results are favorable. Sometimes the results are not favorable. It is favoring somebody else. The situation has totally changed. Then we tend to blame so many people. Our mind gets overstressed. All these things happen. Everything can be avoided if we do it as a devotional service for the Lord. So Krishna says, all your activities, simply do it as a devotional service for me. He says that. So when he's saying like this, Arjuna now asking the further question to Krishna, saying that you are saying that, and you're also telling that this is the way your devotees are, and all those things are saying, this is how your devotees work, and the devotees work without any attachment or any aversion to the activity. The both are important for us. It's not only that we should not have an attachment to what we do, we should also not have an aversion to what we are going to do. It should be very, very neutral, and we have to very, very neutrally we have to work. So one may say it's all very theoretical. Not at all. It is all practical. Krishna has not said one single thing in Bhagavad Gita which is not practical. It is practical for us, and we can definitely work, and we can understand how it has to be done also. So in today's class, basically the subject matter that will be covered will be the mind and the senses, or rather the senses, the desire and senses. Let me put it, not the mind, the desire and the senses, that will get covered in our today's class. So we'll see that here, text 54. So in text 54, Arjuna is asking, So when Krishna told him before, you have to be equipoised in all the activities you have to do. So Arjuna is asking this question today. The person who is equipoised, how is he going to be? You see, text 54. If you have got the books, please open it and go to text 54. Arjuna uvacha sthita prajnasya kabasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadihi kim prabhasheta kimasita kim asita vrajeta kim. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? Om Ajnanam Timrandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I pay my humble and respectful obeisances. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, text 54, Arjuna is saying, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? So we see everybody has got his own style, everybody has got his own way of behavior. When a rich man is walking or when a rich man is talking, from the way he is talking, from the way he is walking or talking, we can make out that this man is something different. Similarly, a person who is very learned, the way he talks, we can make out that this man is different. Similarly, even the devotees can be identified from the way they behave, from the way they talk. The first and the foremost thing a devotee does is he speaks on Krishna. He talks on Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's glories, Krishna's teachings. That's what the first thing he does. So speaking is very, very important, and through a person's speech, we can make out what this person is like. A rich man has got his own way of talking. If you see the way a rich man has got some industrialist coming, the way the industrialist talks or the way he walks in, everybody can make out that he is the big boss around here. Is it not? We can make out. Similarly, Krishna conscious people also have got their own style. And the first symptom is that, or the first lakshana, if you say, is that he talks only on Krishna. He talks on Krishna and of matters relating to Krishna. Then other symptoms are there which we can see. Then in text 55, now for the question raised by Arjuna, the Lord is replying. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Jahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmani Vatmana Tushtaha Stha Prajna Tadu Uchyate. Stha Prajna, he says, stop. Stha Prajna means equipoised totally. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So in today's topic, we'll cover till 61st verse. The subject matter that we are going to discuss really is the desire and the senses which make all these various demands on us. The sense desires. That's what we'll be talking about. Now you see, when these various types of desires, what is the sense desires? How does it arise? It is simply manufactured by our mind. All kinds of sense desires. Now, there are so many desires that keep coming up in our mind. There is no end to it. The various indriyas we have got, the various sense organs we have. I got my eyes, I got my ears, I got my nose, I got my tongue, I got my belly, I got my genitals, I got my mind. Everything is there. And all these various sense organs, they have got every sense organ has got its own demand. Every sense organ expects its desires to be fulfilled. And all these various sense organs are connected with the mind. So you can say the mind is the king of all the senses. Now, you all have got the experience here. All the people who are attending this class, all of you know that everyone here has got some desire or the other. The various senses are making desires, making these demands. Can we artificially control such desires? Have you ever tried to control it? Some people have tried to control it. But are we ever successful in controlling the desires that keep on coming up in our mind? That desires can never be controlled. We have to understand that very clearly. The desires of the various senses cannot be controlled. All the senses in our body, they want to be engaged and satisfied in some way or the other. That's always there. So what is the solution? How do I control my desires? No, don't try to control your desires, but you can always, the desires cannot be controlled. Let me put it the other way. The desires cannot be controlled, but you have a choice of what to desire. That choice you have. I cannot control my desires. The desires will always be there. The desires will keep on erupting. Every second there is a demand from these senses of various desires. And in the process, what happens is mind is also so much occupied. The mind is so busy of concocting so many new things. Always, all these things are happening. So the desire as such is bound to be there. Every human being has got some desire or the other that keeps cropping up in his mind. So the desire cannot be controlled, but I have choice of what to desire. I have choice of desiring a good thing or a bad thing. I've got a choice of eating either something which is offered to the Lord as bhoga and eating it as prasad, or I can pick up anything from the street and I can eat it. So the eating desire is there. That eating desire, how can it be fulfilled? That choice is there. Again, I can pick up something which is from the temple as a prasad and take it and eat, just satisfy myself. Or I can pick up something from the road, from the street side, pick up and eat. Similarly, I want to talk. The tongue has been given for talking. I can decide whether I want to talk all nonsensical things or stupid things or the material things which really do not contribute much to my benefit, or I can always decide whether I should talk something which will be beneficial for somebody else and something beneficial for me. So that the desires are bound to be there, but what desire, how I fulfill the desire, that matters. Am I clear on this? So desire by itself cannot be controlled. Desire will be there, whether I have, but what type of desire I have, that choice I have. I can hear good things, or I can hear all gossip also. I can hear. For every organ of the body, we can give an example like that. Okay. Now, text 56. Krishna says this is again a what verse? He says that one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Now, that is what Krishna said before, right? When he asked Arjuna to fight, he said, be equipoised and fight. He said, don't worry about victory or defeat. Don't sukadukeshu same kritva labha jaya jaya. He says that. Be equipoised, be in that equipoise situation. Sukha or dukkha, don't get disturbed by that. Labha, labha, whether it is victory, whether it is profit or gain or loss, don't worry about it. Jaya, jaya, whether it is victory or defeat, don't worry about it. Hearing it, one may say, how is it possible? These are not possible. But Krishna says you have to be equipoised, and that is possible. That is possible by keeping Krishna in the center of all our activities. So here he says, one who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. Now the three miseries, threefold miseries. What are these threefold miseries? Let us look at it like this. Now the thing is, the threefold miseries, it is called the three kleshas: Adhyatmik klesha, Adibhautik klesha, and Adidaivik klesha. Adhyatmik klesha. Adhyatmik klesha means trouble given by our body and the mind. That is called Adhyatmik klesha. Adibhautik klesha, trouble given by other living entities. That is Adibhautik klesha. Adidaivik klesha is trouble given by the higher, by superior, by the devas. Adidaivik means by devas, the trouble given by the devas, by nature. Let's put it like that. Trouble given by nature. That's it. Now, so we have got three kleshas: Adhyatmik klesha, trouble given by our mind and body; Adibhautik klesha, trouble given by other living entities; and Adidaivik klesha, trouble given by nature. If you see these three types of troubles, what is the one which troubles us the most? The one which troubles us the most is our mind and the body. Basically, the mind. Our mind keeps on troubling us so much. So many situations it concocts. So many imaginary situations it creates. Inside itself, such a big debate goes on in our head, for and against. The imaginatory, it creates another person whom we know or with whom we have had a difference of opinion or something like that in the past or some time back. That person comes, that person talks, I give a reply, I try to hit him back, he says something, I hit him back. All these things keep on going in our mind. And for all our trouble, whom do we blame? We always try to blame another living entity. But actually, the trouble given to us is by our mind. 80% or 90% of our trouble is given by our own mind and body. Our own mind gives us the maximum trouble. So you see how this mind is, how the mind works. It can be a good mind or it can be a bad mind. It can be very devious also sometimes, very, very devious. So the mind is something which we need to know how to handle this mind. So Krishna explains about that mind also later on, how to handle this mind. Krishna himself says that mind is for one who has controlled the mind is a best friend. And one who has got an uncontrolled mind, the mind is a worst enemy, Krishna says. So Adhyatmik klesha, we saw Adibhautik klesha. Now what is the Adibhautik klesha? Trouble given by other living entities. We have this example. When you are walking on the street or sometime you are walking in a park, then afterwards you sit in the park, suddenly you find the mosquitoes come and bite you. You have not done anything to that mosquito, but the mosquito has come and bitten you and gone. And you try to find out who has bitten me. Where is that mosquito? Mosquitoes can never be caught. They are so dynamic. They are good. Their aerodynamics is so fantastic. Zoop, zoop, it goes, it flies and it goes off. You can never catch hold of a mosquito. So I'm just sitting and a mosquito just comes and bites me and goes. Or I'm doing some other living entity, some other person is coming, doing some trouble for me and going away. He just unnecessarily, he picks up a trouble with me. picks up an argument with me. All these things also happen. Or we are given an example of a terrorist coming and hitting here, and a mosquito is being given. So both are other living entities giving us trouble. Adidevi Klesha is the trouble given by nature. There is a cyclone. There is this famine, or there is this pandemic. These are all nature's way of giving us trouble. We are all forced to sit inside our house. By nature, we all wish to go out, be on the street only always. But pandemic has said, no, go and sit at home. You are not supposed to come out on the street. Don't cause pollution outside. Go and sit inside only. So this is something over which we have no control. If there is a famine, can we do anything about it? Is there a way to rectify that famine? No. You may do other things like getting the foodstuff or importing it from somewhere and trying to. But then you have to undergo that trouble, no? The people who are severely affected by famine or by floods. Again, flood, another example of Adidevic Klesha. So there are these three types of kleshas are always there, and these three kleshas always keep on disturbing us. And the worst and the one which gives us the maximum trouble is our body and the mind. The body also gives us trouble, right? Somebody has got a blood pressure, somebody has got diabetes, somebody has got hypertension, somebody has got arthritis. The body gives us trouble different ways, and we have no control over it. So miseries come from different ways. The miseries come. Don't think misery means not getting what I want. Generally, people say he's in a miserable condition because he doesn't have proper food or something like that. No. Even a rich man can be a misery. Even a rich man can be in misery because he has got something what he doesn't want. That also can happen, no? I know of a very rich man. He's a good friend of mine. He has got all the money in the world. But he has got something which he doesn't want, and that is his diabetes. So because he has got diabetes, he has to take that insulin every time. He just presses into his stomach about some injection, tuck, he does it, and he has to remember to put that injection, and the diabetes can cause us several things, some problems for him. All these things also happen. So misery is not only not getting what I want, but misery is also getting what I don't want. That is also a sort of a misery there. So the threefold miseries are there, but a person who is a devotee of the Lord, who is in devotional service of the Lord, who is in Sthita Prajna, is not affected by the influence of the three types of miseries. Second, who is not elated when there is happiness. This is another thing. We have got this yo-yo, when we are happy, we are so excited, we jump and we do everything as if I've got everything. But when I lose something, I become so depressed that, it takes time to really bring me back to normalcy. This also happens. My mind is so disturbed if I don't get what I want, or if I don't achieve what I want. So a person who is Sthita Prajna is neither elated when he has got something great, nor distressed when he loses something. Why? Because when he gets something, he believes that it is the Supreme Lord's mercy that I have got something. It's really his kripa. भगवान के कृपा से मुझे ये सब कुछ मिल गया. By myself, I don't really qualify for it. But सिर्फ भगवान का कृपा था. उनके कृपा से मुझे सब कुछ मिल गया. So he gives the credit to the Supreme Lord. He doesn't try to take the credit for what he has got. Similarly, when he loses something also, he gives that credit to Supreme Lord. And what he says, what he thinks when he loses also, thank God. Krishna has got better plans for him. Probably if I had got it, maybe I would have been influenced by some arrogance or by conceit. Something could have happened. And Krishna wants to make sure that I don't get into those qualities, or I don't get influenced by those qualities. So probably because of that, Krishna decided that this much is sufficient for me. and I'm really thankful to him. This is. See, we have got different desires. We want this, that, and all. Not necessary that everything has to be fulfilled by the Lord, is it not? For example, a child is there. The child wants chocolates. So the child is asking for chocolates. But what does a mother do? She has got the full box of chocolates. And the child knows that this box has got full chocolates. I can take it. So he asks for one, he asks for two, he asks for three. What does the mother say? I give you three. Now don't ask for any more. I will not give. When the child asks for the fourth chocolate, mother says, no, I will not give you. I will give you tomorrow, not today. So the mother doesn't give. What does the child think? साला इतना चॉकलेट रखा है मेरे को और एक चॉकलेट पूछेगा तो नहीं देते कितना कंजूस है मेरा एक चॉकलेट देने में उसको क्या फर्क क्या पड़ता है the child thinks like this but the mother knows if the child takes more than this much of chocolate the child will have a stomach problem so better not to give this child this chocolate I will give it him tomorrow or day after similarly what is good for me what is bad for me I myself am not in a position to understand that the Lord is in a better position to understand. So the Lord decides what should be given to me and what is not necessary to be given to me at this point of time. So a devotee, he understands this particular aspect. So if the Lord has, if I get something, I'm very happy, but at the same time, it is simply because of the kripa of the Supreme Lord that I got it. So actually the credit should go to the Lord. He's so dayalu that he has given it to me. So I give the credit to the Lord. And if I don't get something, if I don't succeed in something, then also I give the credit to the Lord, saying that the Lord knows what is good for me and he has taken care of it. And I simply go by his decision because he's in a better, he's placed in a better situation to judge what is good and what is bad. And who is free from attachment. As a result, what happens when I start thinking like this? I also gradually become free from attachment. Then the fear also goes away from me and anger also goes away from me. Now these are very important, the fear and the anger part. You know, who is not affected by fear in this world? Who is not affected by anger in this world? All of us are affected by this attachment, fear, and anger. First of all, we develop some attachment. And what is our fear? Fear of losing what we are attached to. And when we lose something, we become angry also. But a Krishna conscious person, one who is dependent on the Lord, no, he is not. He is not bothered. His attachment is only to Krishna. His attachment is only to Krishna. And he knows that if I depend upon Krishna, that is more than enough. He will take care of me. If there is a big man, the chairman of the company is very favorable to me, why should I bother to depend upon so many managers in the company, in the hierarchy? The chairman knows me. The chairman is, I'm quite attached to the chairman. Chairman knows that I'm completely devoted to him. I'm doing everything for his sake without harming or hurting anybody else. I'm giving respect to everybody, but I'm not dependent on anybody, but I'm simply dependent upon the chairman. I don't have any problem that simply depending on the chairman is sufficient now because I know that come what may, my chairman will take care of me. Is it not? In such a situation, I don't have to depend on so many others. Similarly here, the devotee, when is totally dependent upon the Supreme Lord, he knows come what may, the Lord will take care of me. I don't have to worry about anything else. So this exists. So this way what happens? A devotee, a Krishna conscious person develops his determination in his Krishna consciousness. Then in text 57, we have got this sloka. I'm just skipping the sloka, I will read the translation part only. In this material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So what is the nature of this world? In this, the the shloka says, in this material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, so that neither praising it, that praising word is mistalk, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect. This world is such that you'll always find good and evil all the same. This world is full of dualities, happiness and miseries. Everything is there. But when one is fixed in Krishna consciousness, he is not affected by this happiness and distress. Sukhe dukkhe samay kritva jaya jayo labha labha. Is it not? Samay kritva. Person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. So you will find always this duality. Matras parshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. Krishna says that the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress is like the appearance of winter and summer. When winter is there, you don't remember summer. When summer is there, you don't remember winter. When there is happiness, we don't remember about our distress. And when there is distress, we don't remember about our happiness. But is happiness permanent? Is distress permanent? Both are temporary in nature. That's why he said the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. This is how Krishna has explained. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. So they appear, they go. Do we ask for distress? Is there anyone who says, oh, please give me distress? We don't. Kunti Devi asked, of course. She asked that. Kunti Devi, Pandava's mother, she asked for distress. She asked for distress because she said that give me distress so that I can always remember you, Krishna. So devotees, high level, exalted devotees, they don't mind getting some distress because they see it as an opportunity to remember the Lord. But as a common man, do we ever ask for distress? We do not want distress. We always want happiness. We always want happiness. But distress comes on its own. We don't invite it, but distress comes on its own. Just like the distress comes on its own, happiness will also come on its own. You don't have to make special effort, endeavor for that. You will get it. If you are destined to be happy, you will be happy. If you are destined to be miserable, you are going to be miserable. That's a way of getting out of it. That is another subject matter. But then happiness and distress keep coming for everyone, and that is all temporary in nature. But what is my mind asking for? I always want happiness. You see this picture, what is there here, this particular picture, happiness and miseries. You see here, this man wants happiness. Put a big board, I want happiness. The Muni is coming, he is taking out that board. The man is becoming so angry. He's screaming at him. What are you doing? You're taking away my happiness. He's saying. But then, what the Muni is doing, from what he has written there, I want happiness. The Muni is taking out the word I and want. Both he removes. Want is what? All the desires. When he removes that, what is left? Only happiness is left. And the man is really happy there. Why? Because that selfish interest is taken out of it. What is the selfish interest? Aham mameti. There is an I and mine. When these thoughts of I and mine come, automatically that selfishness is involved in that. And that selfishness is what brings us the maximum problem in this world. But when we try to do everything in a neutral manner, just as an offering for Krishna, we do it as a devotional service for Krishna, then this problem doesn't arise. Beautifully explained by Krishna in this, in Bhagavad Gita. If you sit and analyze what he has said, think over it, fantastic knowledge he has given us. And then he's explaining about also the the man who is firmly fixed, who is equipoised. How does he behave with this? How does he handle his senses? Like the senses what we have, all the senses what we have, they are like demons for us, absolutely no control. So Krishna says, 58 text. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. This is the test of his yogi, that is able to control the senses according to his plan. Now, this in Ashtanga Yoga, those who are used to this yogic practices and all, I wouldn't know that much because I'm not into yoga. Mystic yogas I'm not into, but those who are in mystic yoga, you will know. In order to nowadays the yoga what they are talking is something totally different. Nowadays the yoga is only the bodily postures or some or the other to get a good health, all this. But the real purpose of yoga is to control all the senses, including the breathing, how we control pranayama, how we have to do niyama. There are so many rules and regulations to follow, and all those things are there. So now let's understand something about these senses. All of us have got these senses. We are there inside. We are the soul sitting inside this body, or rather, we are the soul. We have been given this body. So who is the master of the? Who is supposed to be the? So this body belongs to whom? This body belongs to me. Your body belongs to. Your body belongs to you. Correct. So body has got different senses, and the senses are there to assist the body. Is it not? But one sense cannot perform another sense's activity. Like the eyes are there. Eyes have got the duty of seeing only. Eyes cannot perform the duty of a hand of picking up food and putting it into the mouth. The eyes cannot do it. But the eyes can see and tell where the food is. And tell the hand, and tell the mind, food is here. The mind will give the direction to the hand to go and pick it up and put it into the mouth. It all takes place in a split second. The whole activity takes place in a split second. Actually, it is not. There is no SOP like this. This has been done. Probably the SOP is so fine tuned and so quick it is. Fat, everything happens. Now you see, I am there. I got this body. Body has got the senses. The senses are there to support the body. Body is there to support me because I am the owner of this body. So if I am the owner of the body, body is my servant. Body is there to assist me. The senses are there to assist me. The mind is there to assist me. The intelligence is there to assist me. But in reality, if you see, I don't even realize that I'm there inside the body. I become so insignificant, or I become so, what do you call that? I don't get the word. I'm not even recognized because the senses do what they want. The mind does what it wants. I'm always sitting helpless, seeing all these things happening. And when there is trouble, I really struggle with the trouble. Oh my God, why did I do this? Why am I getting into all these difficulties? At that time only I keep suffering. At that time. But then when I tell myself, sometimes I become angry and tell my mind, don't do this. You are doing all these things and I'm getting into trouble. The mind is quiet. It simply listens. But again, what it does what it wants to do. So the mind becomes my master. The senses become my master. Everybody is becoming my master. And I'm a useless servant for everyone. Actually, I am supposed to be the Raja of my body. I'm supposed to be the king of my body. I'm supposed to be the owner of this body. I'm supposed to be the master of this body. But actually, in reality, I become a servant of this body. Simply listen to whatever the senses and the body mind is asking for. So what is the right thing to do? The right thing to do is to control all these things, to bring it under control. But earlier I said that the senses cannot be controlled. Krishna said that the senses cannot be controlled. He said that. Prabhupada in his purport also said senses cannot be controlled. It can only be put to use. The desires cannot be controlled. Only I got only a choice of what type of desire I can have. Similarly, the senses also cannot be controlled. But I have a choice for what purpose I put the senses into activity. What activities I engage the senses in. That choice I have. So I got these hands. I can I've got my various organs. I can use it for right purpose or for wrong purposes. I can do that. I've got my ears. I can use it for the right purpose or wrong purposes. In this world, there are so many nonsensical things available to read, to see, and to hear, and to also engage ourselves in. The choice is ours. But when a person who is engaged so much in material activities and is so much engaged in trying to satisfy his senses, always thinking of sense gratification, for him to come out of this situation is very, very difficult. But for a person who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, regulating the senses is very easy. Please mark the word. I'm saying regulating. I'm not saying controlling the senses, because the senses cannot be controlled. But regulating the senses, that is possible. How that can be done? Here we have got the example of a tortoise here, where in one case the tortoise, the head is out with its leg out, and another one is the second tortoise is here. The second tortoise, everything is inside. It has controlled it. So how is it possible? Only when one is now he's taking to text 29, where he says that the embodied soul, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. So I just now said the senses cannot be controlled, but the senses can be regulated. And the same thing further is being explained here by Krishna, saying that though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, how it is restricted from sense enjoyment? These senses are engaged, but in what engagement it gets, that matters. If restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. So I got a choice whether I engage my senses in lower taste activities or higher taste activities. The minute I engage my senses in higher taste activities, automatically the lower taste activities simply disappear from. To give you a very simple example, when we were children, we were playing with toys. You know, like you got the gun, you got that toy gun, you get the toy car, you get the toy helicopter, all these things. And for the girls, they have got their own different toys to play with. All those things are there. But as we grow up from that small child to a boyhood, or when we are getting into our youth, do we play with these toys? Or we go and play football, basketball, volleyball, cricket. These are the various games we play. Why? Because we have found a higher taste. We find that there is more fun and happiness derived from playing these games, outdoor games, rather than playing with the toys. So we don't indulge in ourselves in playing with the toys. We engage ourselves in higher games. That's a higher taste I have got. Similarly, there are so many activities in this world. Activities which are involving only sense enjoyment, sense gratification. They are all of lower taste. When do I realize that it's of a lower taste? Only when I engage myself in a higher taste activity. Till that time, I don't realize. Till the time I think that this lower taste activity is the best activity I have got. Is it not? But when I start experiencing a higher taste activity, then that is considered to be a better enjoyment. If I have to put it in a very, I don't know whether this example is a good example or not, but when someone is introduced to drinking, he starts with beer, for example. So he takes beer. After some times, he is graduated into drinking whiskey, rum, and all these things. He gives up beer. He doesn't want to take beer because he has got a higher taste. Do not know whether this is a real good example or not, but I've heard people talking this, saying that beer hard drinks we have to take. So they go for that hard drinks and they think that that's of a higher taste. Similarly, in our activities, when we engage ourselves in Krishna conscious activities and the enjoyment what we get in that, then we realize all these various material activities that we are engaging in, they are all so much of lower type. So how do we get into the higher taste also? Anyway, for any sense enjoyment also, there are certain do's and don'ts. Like when a person is not keeping well, when he goes to a doctor, the doctor prescribes certain do's and don'ts to recover from that problem or that disease, whatever he has got. Similarly, but yeah, there are certain do's and don'ts what have to be done. But although there are certain restrictions placed on that person because he's not well, the desire for those activities or those don'ts, it doesn't disappear from him. He still wants to enjoy them. Similarly, sense restriction by spiritual process, what is been explained, especially in the mystic yoga, like you have got this yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, in the mystic yoga, the whole thing which comes, this is being explained that this is all for less intelligent. For a higher intelligent person, what does he do? He directly engages himself in the devotional service for the Lord. So one when engages oneself in a direct devotional service for the Lord, then what happens? Although the taste for sense enjoyment was there, now he has got a higher taste, and by what happens by engaging himself in higher taste, experiencing a higher taste, he is also fixed in higher consciousness. So the taste for the lower objects, that simply disappears from him. And in the text 60, Krishna is explaining that the senses are so strong and impetuous, Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So the senses are not easy to be controlled. That's why I've been talking of regulating the mind. Regulating the mind, regulating the senses, everything. Now we all know the story of Vishwamitra. Here on this side, we have got this picture of Vishwamitra and Menaka, who is there. Vishwamitra, we all know, he was a great yogi. Vishwamitra was doing so much of tapas. What happened? Menaka comes there. Indra sends Menaka because he is scared that Vishwamitra wants to become a next Indra. He'll push me out of this throne. He'll throw me away. There will be some coup that will take place. If a coup takes place, then I will lose my position. Indra is always scared of his position. So when we go to Srimad Bhagavatam, you will find there are so many stories about Indra, where he's always scared of his position. So here what happens? Indra sends Menaka to distract Vishwamitra from his tapas. And as expected, Vishwamitra is totally disturbed. And what happens? He goes with Menaka and he also produces children. Then he realizes his mistake. Then he becomes very upset with Menaka. Again, he goes into a tapas. Later, after some years, Urvashi comes. When Urvashi comes, Vishwamitra becomes very angry now because he realizes that already I lost so many years in tapas and my tapas was spoiled by Menaka. Now this Urvashi has come. So he becomes very angry with Urvashi also. So the bottom line is, controlling the mind like this is not very, very easy. Controlling the mind, controlling the senses artificially, one can never do that. That's why Krishna says, the senses are so strong and impetuous to Arjuna that they forcibly carry away the mind of a man, even of a man of discrimination. Just imagine Vishwamitra, what position, exalted position he was. Carry away the mind of even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So it is so difficult for a man who is endeavoring to control them. Then what happens to a man who is not at all bothering to control the mind and the senses, in what situation is he then? We all know the story of Clinton, right? So how Clinton got into trouble because of his uncontrolled senses. You know that there are many stories like this going on in the world. I don't have to tell all the stories, but then there are so many because of the uncontrolled mind, all these things happen. So what is the best way to control? One who restrains his senses, text 61. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. This is the 61st verse and the last verse for the day. So Krishna says in the 61st verse, he says, Tani sarvani samyasya ukta asita matparaha shehi yaste indriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So higher taste now. Higher taste is Krishna consciousness. Depending upon Krishna. We all have to learn how to depend upon Krishna. That is also being taught how to depend upon Krishna. What we should do to depend upon Krishna. Already he said, when you are working, you think of me and you do your job. He tells Arjuna, right? You fight thinking of me. So how to do our work, activities in this world, depending upon Krishna, what approach we have, he taught us. We need to know how to put it in practice. And when you start practicing, it becomes successful. Similarly, how do we restrain our senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Simply depending upon Krishna, changing our consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Consciousness is there. Be either a materially conscious person or spiritually conscious person. That is in my hands. That independence is given to me by Krishna. Decide what you want. Either you want to depend upon Maya, which means all the material activities, the ups and downs, all those things, or spiritually conscious, or depending upon me. When you depend upon me, when you become Krishna conscious, you become a man of steady intelligence. How? Simply engaging everything in Krishna's service. So here, there is a story, what I can explain. Many of you may know this story also. So once Ambarisha Maharaja it was an Ekadashi. On Ekadashi, Ambarisha Maharaja was doing his fast, and Dwadashi comes. And Dwadashi, breaking the fast time comes, that is called Paran. So at the time of Paran, Durvasa Muni walks in. Just before Paran, Durvasa Muni walks in. And it's already close to Paran time. So Durvasa Muni, when he comes, Ambarisha Maharaja receives him and says, I'm so glad that you have come, because Paran time to honor a great sage like you I'm so fortunate. Please come. So Durvasa Muni says, let me take bath in the river and come. He says, all right, I will wait for you. Durvasa Muni goes to take bath. But Paran time is going. Durvasa Muni is not coming out of the river. He's taking his own time. And Durvasa Muni is supposed to be, a man with uncontrolled anger. He has got. He's a yogi. And he's known for his anger. So Durvasa Muni doesn't come in time. Now Ambarish Maharaja is totally confused. He doesn't know what to do, whether to break the fast or not to break the fast, because he has fasted already. And if he doesn't break the fast, if he doesn't observe that Paran, what will happen is whatever he has fasted the previous day, everything goes waste. And if he breaks the fast, then it will be an insult to Durvasa Muni, because a great Rishi Muni has come, he has to honor him. So in such a situation, Ambarish Maharaja doesn't know what to do. So his Raja Rishis advise him, you take one tulsi leaf and put Ganges water in that and you drink it. This way you have broken your fast, but at the same time you have not broken the fast also. This you do it. This way Durvasa Muni should not get offended. So Ambarish Maharaja follows the advice given by his Raja Rishis. He takes a tulsi leaf in his palm, he puts some Ganga water, Ganges water in that, and he drinks it. There, Durvasa Muni immediately realizes it because of his yogic powers, and he says, "This Ambarish Maharaj has broken his fast. He has insulted me. He has called me for this Dwaradashi feast, and when a guest is there, without honoring the guest, he has taken something." So he becomes very angry. With great anger, he comes to the Sabha, and what he does, from his hair, he pulls out one hair, puts it down with full anger, and curses Ambarisha that you will be destroyed. When he puts it like that, from that hair, one demoness comes out, one Rakshasi comes out, and her duty is to devour Ambarisha Maharaja. When this happens, Ambarish Maharaj is simply standing with folded hands, not knowing what to really to do, but he is not disturbed. He says, "Doesn't matter, whatever has to happen, I simply depend upon Krishna." He waits like that. At that time, what happens when the demon as the Rakshasi wants to attack Ambarish Maharaja? Krishna's Sudarshana Chakra comes, and that Sudarshana Chakra kills that Rakshasi. After killing that Rakshasi, the Sudarshana Chakra goes round and sees who is the person who has created this Rakshasi. The Sudarshana Chakra knows that it is Durvasa Muni who has created. So it goes for Durvasa Muni's neck. When it goes for Durvasa Muni's neck, Durvasa Muni realizes that this chakra is going to kill me. Now he's scared. He runs. He finds that the chakra is following him. So he directly goes to Brahmaloka. He meets the Lord Brahma and tells Brahma, "This chakra is coming. It's going to kill me. Please protect me." Brahma says, "This is the Sudarshana Chakra released from Krishna's abode. It has come. I can't do anything about it. I am totally helpless before this Sudarshana Chakra." So immediately Durvasa Muni runs to Lord Shiva. When he goes to Lord Shiva says, "I can't do anything about it, boss. This is Narayana's Sudarshana Chakra. Who can stand before that chakra, Sudarshana Chakra? Nobody can." So Durvasa Muni runs to Narayana. When he goes to Narayana, Narayana is lying down. Narayana gets up and says, "What happened, Durvasa Muni? Why are you coming so running like this?" He says, "Your chakra is going to kill me. Please protect me. Stop. Ask your chakra to stop." Then Narayana sees the chakra coming. He says, "Oh, Durvasa Muni, I'm totally helpless. This chakra has left my finger because you have offended a Vaishnava. You have offended one of my great devotees. You have offended. And for Vaishnava Prada, when it is committed, this chakra takes its own course. I cannot control this chakra because Vaishnavas are more important than myself. I stay where my Vaishnavas are. My thoughts are always on the Vaishnavas, my devotees. My devotees are the. So, what is the solution? Please tell me. The chakra is going to kill me at any moment now." He says, "Go back to Ambarish Maharaja. Fall at his feet. Ask for his forgiveness. That's the only way you can be saved." Durvasa Muni again comes back down to this material world. By that time, 1 year has already passed. Ambarish Maharaj has still not had anything to eat. He's simply waiting for what is the next thing that is going to happen. He doesn't know. He's waiting there. Durvasa Muni comes running, falls at his feet, and asks for his forgiveness. So Ambarish Maharaj says, what am I? I'm an ordinary person. You are such a great Muni. I'm not the right person to forgive you. But please don't ask for my forgiveness. I'm not at all anybody. But the minute that he fell at the feet of Ambarish Maharaja and asked for forgiveness, that Sudarshana Chakra disappears from that. So Ambarish Maharaja, how did he become such a great Vaishnava? Because his life was totally dependent on Krishna. He was doing everything. The previous verse, what did he say? One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. So how did he do it? How did he keep it under control? By regulating, by putting all his senses in the service of the Lord. So his head, he was always paying obeisances to the Lord. His mind, he was always thinking of Krishna. He was doing that. His words were used for chanting the holy name of the Lord or doing bhajans only for this. His hands were used for cleaning the temples His ears were used for listening to pravachan, listening to bhajans, to listening to his own chanting. His eyes were used for seeing the deity of the Lord. He was serving the devotees of the Lord, that by touching, he was really touching the devotees, massaging their feet. He was doing all sorts of such services to the devotees. He was smelling the flowers offered to the Lord. He was eating only prasadam. That way his tongue was used for eating prasadam and chanting the holy name of the Lord. His legs were used for going to the temple of the Lord. Like that, every part of the body was used for the service of the Lord. When every part of this body is used, every organ is used in the service of the Lord, what happens is all the organs come under control. They all get regulated. Eyes have got the duty of seeing, but eyes have a choice of seeing either Krishna's, taking darshan of Krishna, seeing the devotees, or seeing all nonsensical things. The tongue has got a choice. The tongue has got a duty. It will do some activity. It has got the duty of performing an activity of eating. It always has got a choice of eating prasadam or eating anything that is available in the market. The tongue has got the duty of vibrating always. It always keeps on vibrating and talking. It has always got a choice of talking nonsensical things, or it can always talk on Krishna consciousness, about Krishna Katha. It can talk. Like that, every organ of our body, every part of our body, every sense that we have can be either utilized in spiritual activities and thereby bring it under control through regulation. Afterwards, what happens? When the tongue is used to eating only prasadam, when the outside things are given, it doesn't find a taste in it. It doesn't want to eat. When the eyes are used to seeing the deity of the Lord, the devotees of the Lord, appreciating the beauty of the Lord, he doesn't want to see anything else. So like that, every organ can be put in the service of the Lord, and thereby every organ can be regulated and brought under control. Thus, one can become Sita Prajna. One becomes really equipoised in all the activities. So, in conclusion, simply depending upon Krishna, that is what it says. Simply depending upon the Lord for all our activities, our life itself, we depend upon the Lord for everything, our life becomes successful. This is the teachings of Krishna in today's verse. So with this, I will stop the class for the day. Thank you very much to all of you. Any questions you have got, please feel free to ask the questions. Whatever questions you may have, please feel free to ask the questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Shashikant here.
Yes, Shashikant. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes.
You have explained about Klesha.
Yeah.
Abhi Adhyatmik Klesha, Abhi Bhautik Klesha. So it is in today's material world, it would be very difficult to control the outside, like Abhi Bhautik Klesha. So most of the time it happens like though we Abhivyakti Klesha we can control, but that is our own mind.
Sorry, what can we control?
Our own mind we can control, but how it is very difficult for you can say Abhi Bhautik Klesha, that is the outside world, what they are telling to us, like a picture of terrorist or some mosquitoes there. So that is all outside the world, outside world. So it is very difficult to control that Klesha. So it's like it is the only thing like the Krishna consciousness deep and deep to control that Klesha also.
No, you can't control any of the kleshas.
Regulate, sorry. Yes.
No. Even the regulate, you cannot regulate or control the kleshas. The troubles are always there, right?
Yes.
In your own, you would have seen, I'm quite sure everybody here, and you are no exception, everybody in this world is facing some difficulty or the other, some misery or the other. All of us have undergone it.
Yes.
For the miseries, but the miseries have come on their own. Is it not? So where have we been able to control it? We cannot control or regulate. So kleshas are which are there, that is the nature of this world. As long as the world is there, these types of difficulties will be there. Only thing is the difficulties have been categorized into three types. One is adhyatmic klesha, trouble given by our body and mind. Second is the adibhautik klesha, the trouble given by the other living entities. And the third is adivedic klesha, trouble given by the devatas or by nature.
Yes.
Type of troubles are
Yes.
bound to be there. One cannot escape from it. These things will be there. We have got no control. Whether you are in Krishna, not Krishna consciousness, the trouble will be there. These troubles are bound to be there.
Okay.
But how do we face these kleshas? That's a difference in that. The difficulties will be there, but as a Krishna conscious person, how do you face those difficulties? And as a non-Krishna conscious person, how do you face those difficulties? That difference is there.
Intensity will reduce by Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, you are mentally prepared how to face these difficulties.
Okay.
That face, you learn how do you face it, because whatever comes, you know that these are because of Lord's arrangement. I have to simply depend upon the Lord. When I depend upon the Lord will take care of me. So I don't have to worry. Like, just like you see,
Yes.
a child also has got difficulties, but the child is simply dependent upon the Lord. So because it is dependent upon the Lord, it knows that whatever it is, the Lord will take care of. The child is dependent upon the parents. So even when the
Yes.
child says, okay, my parents are there, they will take care of me. You know, the child, if he has got difficulty, it immediately goes to the parents. And parents say, okay, you have got these difficulties, we will handle it. We will take care of it. The parents give that type of assurance, the child feels more assured.
Yes.
But the child feels more assured. Yes, the parents are there. My father and mother are there. So he has got so much of confidence on his father and mother. He will take care of my problem. I don't have to worry about it. Like that, the same thing happens here. The devotee depends on God. He knows, come what may, the Lord is there to take care of it. I don't.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. This is Baba Sahib.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I understood that the desires will be there and we have to be selective in choosing or keeping the desires. Or hello, am I audible?
No. Yeah, you're audible.
So we have to choose whether to uphold or whether to withdraw that particular desire. But how do we identify whether it's a good desire or a bad desire for us?
No. See, the desires are always there.
Yes.
The desires are always there, as I said. The
Yeah.
question is whether there is, if you are looking at as good desire, bad desire, then that is on the material plane. That is on the material plane, the whole thing is.
Right.
The material plane, if you are going on that, you will be having difficulties. Even if it's a good desire you feel, still you will have a difficulty. So the choice what we have is whether I desire to do things that will satisfy Krishna or do things that will satisfy me. Now when I talk of good desire and bad desire, like what you said, that is related to me. I am seeing in my interest what is good desire, what is bad desire. That's what I'm looking at. Rather than
Yes.
I'm bringing that aham mameti concept. I'm looking from my own selfish point of view. I'm looking. But when
Right.
I desire to do things, desire something, when I desire something for Krishna's satisfaction, in Krishna consciousness, there is nothing called good or bad desire. That everything is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And when everything is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, it is Lord's happiness that I am concerned.
Right. Understood.
Like, for example, let me put it like this. I desire to hear, I got lots of filmy songs in the market. You see, all boisterous songs are there. Sometimes that makes me feel very, it encourages that rajoguna in me. That also happens. it, or it can sometimes, it can also develop that sattvic guna in me. Not sattvic guna in me. These things can happen. Filmy songs never generate sattvic guna in us. But I can also listen to the bhajans. Bhajan is also like a song. And bhajans can give me really that soothing feeling. Is it not?
Right.
So that soothing feeling when I get, I feel very happy. So at the same time, what I'm doing is simple activity of listening only to the bhajan, but that is in Krishna consciousness. I'm doing. There is something connected with Krishna. I'm doing that. So it becomes a Krishna conscious activity. Am I clear with this example?
Yes, Guruji. Yes, Guruji.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anything else? Any other question? Anything else? All right. If there's nothing else, then shall we stop the class for the day? I hope you have understood what I explained. I tried my level best to explain whatever is possible. But in case you have not understood something and you used to ask any question, we have our, we have created that group where you can put in your question in that group, and whatever is possible to answer, definitely we will answer those questions. Okay. Thank you very much to all of you. Shila
Thank you, Guruji.
Prabhupada,
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Granth Sahib ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare